The presence of a waterfall changes everything. It is not just a visual element, not just a source of sound, but an active force that shapes the environment around it. The air is heavier, filled with moisture. The ground never fully dries. Surfaces become unpredictable, and every step must be considered carefully. Building in such a place is not simply about placing materials together. It is about understanding how constant motion and moisture influence structure. Unlike dry environments where stability comes from rigidity, here stability comes from adaptation. The first challenge is not construction, but positioning. Choosing where to build determines how long the structure will last. Too close to the falling water, and the force becomes destructive. Too far, and the environment loses its defining character. The ideal location exists somewhere between exposure and protection. Once that balance is found, preparation begins. The ground is not uniform. It consists of layers of soft soil, embedded stones, and uneven surfaces shaped by continuous water flow. There is no perfect foundation here, only an acceptable one. The structure must compensate for what the ground cannot provide. Materials play a critical role in this process. Bamboo is not selected simply because it is available, but because of how it behaves under stress. It does not crack easily when exposed to moisture. It bends slightly, absorbing energy rather than breaking under pressure. Each piece is chosen with intention. Transporting materials across wet terrain introduces another layer of complexity. Friction is reduced. Surfaces become slippery. Movement must slow down, not because of weakness, but because of control. Every step is deliberate, reducing the risk of losing balance. When vertical supports are placed into the ground, they do not anchor deeply into solid earth. Instead, they rely on distributed pressure and compacted soil. Stability is achieved through repetition, pressing layer after layer until resistance builds. Connections between elements define the strength of the structure. Rope bindings replace rigid fasteners, creating joints that can adjust slightly under force. This flexibility is essential. A completely rigid connection would fail under continuous environmental stress. As horizontal beams are introduced, the structure begins to define space. It transitions from isolated elements into a connected system. Each beam distributes load across multiple points, reducing strain on individual supports. Elevation introduces a new perspective. As the structure rises, its relationship with the waterfall becomes more pronounced. Mist reaches higher levels. Air movement becomes more noticeable. The environment is no longer surrounding the structure, it becomes part of it. Working at height requires a different level of focus. Balance is no longer static. It is constantly adjusted through small, controlled movements. There is no room for unnecessary motion. Every action must serve a purpose. The creation of flooring changes how the structure is experienced. What was once a framework becomes a surface that can support presence. The woven bamboo distributes weight across multiple contact points, reducing localized pressure. This transformation is subtle, but significant. Walls do not isolate the interior. Instead, they define it while maintaining openness. The spacing between bamboo elements allows light and air to pass through freely. This design prevents moisture from being trapped, reducing long-term damage. Light behaves differently in this environment. It reflects off moving water, creating patterns that shift continuously. The interior is never static. It changes with the time of day, with the intensity of light, with the movement of the waterfall. Sound also becomes part of the structure. The constant flow of water is not something that can be removed. Instead, it becomes a background layer that defines the atmosphere. Over time, it is no longer perceived as noise, but as presence. The roof introduces protection without isolation. It must handle moisture, redirect water, and reduce the impact of falling droplets carried by the wind. Its angle and layering determine how effectively it performs this role. Every layer is placed with intention. Overlapping sections ensure that water flows away rather than collecting. Weight is carefully considered to avoid overloading the structure below. When construction reaches completion, there is no single moment of transformation. There is no dramatic shift from incomplete to complete. Instead, there is a gradual realization that every part is now functioning together. The structure stands, not because it resists the environment, but because it works with it. Moisture continues to exist. Movement continues to occur. Sound continues to flow. But the structure adapts. It becomes part of the landscape, rather than something placed within it. Standing nearby, the difference becomes clear. What once was only terrain shaped by water now includes a form shaped by human intention. Not imposed, but integrated. The bamboo house beside the waterfall does not dominate its surroundings. It coexists with them. It accepts the conditions, adjusts to them, and remains stable because of that acceptance. And in that balance, the structure finds not just stability, but longevity.
Almost done with this one.
That's really well made.
Thanks, I think it'll hold. All right, this wall should fit perfectly.
Push it in.
Push it in. Good, almost there. Almost there.
It's looking good, Tang Tang.
Fit perfectly. Just need to secure. Almost done. More to the left. Hold fast. Just a little more. There. It should hold now. That's better. All right, that should hold. Let me check.
Yes.